Welcome to the workshop, Be Who You Want to Be. I am so glad you're here, and I hope that you will find some really practical, helpful tips in the next few minutes as we talk about this topic. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, in the chat, I've put some links, so be sure to check those out. So we're going to talk about how you can be who you want to be. First, you need to decide who that is. Who is it that you want to be? How do you want to be characterized? How do you want to be seen by other people? And how do you want, deep down, how do you want to be seen by yourself? How do you want to be seen as a mom or a friend? How do you want to be characterized as a woman and as you age? A wife, an employer, an employee, a sister, a daughter, a woman of faith. All these are different categories in our life. And we need to think about, how do we want to be seen? How do you want to be characterized? Who do you want to be? There's a lot of different words we can use to describe who we want to be. And I've put together just a short list on this slide to kind of kickstart some thinking for yourself. Do you want to be seen as somebody who's active, admirable, adventurous, benevolent, brave, capable or compassionate, confident, dedicated? Do you want to be seen as somebody who's easygoing or enthusiastic, somebody who's known as being forgiving and ethical, generous and helpful, joyful, loving? Do you want to be a nice person? Do you want someone to characterize you as a nice person? What about being optimistic or peaceful? And we live in a pretty stressful time, and it would be really, so rewarding if somebody saw you as a peaceful person. What about someone who is self-disciplined or selfless, somebody who's strong or thoughtful? These are just a few words that you could use to describe who you are and who you want to be, how you want to be seen, and how you want to be characterized. There's many, many more words. There's a worksheet packet that accompanies this workshop, and toward the end, I'll show you how you can get a copy of that for yourself. So I'm going to ask you again, who do you want to be? The next question you need to answer is, what are you going to do about it? Well, that's pretty simple. You're going to take action, and you're going to identify the action steps that you need to take to become that person. So I'm going to go through a few examples with you. One is, if you want to be characterized as being an active person, maybe an action step you can take is incorporating some lifestyle fitness. So that's things like walking or fitness activities you do with your friends or your spouse, or just part of your lifestyle, part of who you are. What about being an adventurous person? Maybe you're going to try something new, something you've been afraid of. That also kind of plays into being confident or being capable or brave. Those are things, characteristics that if you want to demonstrate those characteristics, you have to put yourself out there and do things that demonstrate those things. I'm going to give you an example of how to start becoming capable or seeing yourself as capable. So maybe you have this narrative that you play in your mind like, well, I really can't do that. Or maybe you've just never done something. And I'm going to use a really basic example. I used this in a reel recently that I posted about walking. So say you've never walked more than a mile at a time, which is totally fine. But say it's because you just felt like you couldn't, or for whatever reason, you've limited yourself, but you want to be seen as a capable person. So how about you walk a mile in one direction? Because what happens when you get there? You've got to turn around and go back. So you go back, and all of a sudden you've just walked 2 miles. You have doubled what you thought you were capable of, and you've demonstrated capability. So simple things you can do to start working on those characteristics. What about being forgiving? It sounds super simple, but practice forgiveness. As you practice forgiveness, you're going to be seen as a forgiving person. What about generosity? I know for me, I think about tipping and leaving a tip, say at a restaurant. So, I was taught that your tip is based on the service or the food or the environment, whatever it is. But I started to reframe my thinking and thought about tipping more about me and what it says about me and not about the other person or the service or the food. And it totally changed how I tipped and how much I tipped, because I want to be seen as a generous person. I don't want to be seen as stingy or a tightwad. I want to be seen as generous. So I started thinking about, what would a generous person tip? They would want to tip above and beyond. They would want to help that person out. They would want to be a very giving person. And so I started practicing that behavior. Also, we live in a time where people are just so busy. So what about giving of your time? That's another way to demonstrate or characterize generosity. What about being healthy? Maybe it's creating healthy eating habits. Maybe it's healthy activities. There's lots of different ways you can demonstrate and be characterized as a healthy person. So, being helpful might be on your list. So what are things you can do? Being available for a friend who might need help, being the person that steps in when somebody needs help doing something, then you're going to start being characterized as helpful. What about peaceful? Again, we live in this time of so much stress that it would really stand out if you were characterized as a peaceful person. People would want to know, what is it you do that makes you peaceful? Well, the kinds of things you can do are practicing spiritual disciplines, such as getting in the Word. If you're a believer, that is the Bible, prayer, meditation, worship music. Just having those things being a part of your life can bring about a peacefulness that characterizes you. How about self-discipline? That just encompasses so many areas of our life, from food to fitness, to how we use our time, to how we use our resources. So many things can be characterized as a self-discipline. So keeping our commitments to ourselves is one way that we can start being seen as somebody who practices self-discipline or is a self-disciplined person. What about being strong? Do the things it takes to be strong. Get in the gym. Start doing some things at home. There's no excuse, and there's plenty of resources to do that. And what about emotional strength? Maybe you need to seek some counseling or seek out a friend and talk through some things. Like, there's no shame in that, and you develop mental and emotional strength. So it's a really positive characteristic in how somebody can view you. Same with thoughtfulness. Just shooting a text to a friend or sending a note. There's little things you can do that demonstrate that you are a thoughtful person. And again, this is just a few examples. The sky's the limit. Be creative and brainstorm on some of these things. Some helpful strategies for you along the way. Don't try to fix everything at once. Now, habits take time, and you can't change all the things you feel like you need to change at one time, or you'll pretty quickly get discouraged or overwhelmed and just quit. So think about one or two characteristics. It's like, I'm going to do some things to develop that characteristic, and just go for it. Get accountability or coaching. I have had a business coach in the past. I've had nutrition coaches. I've had people I've been accountable to. Coaching and accountability is so helpful, and it works. So find, a friend, a spouse, a coach. Do what you need to do to have somebody help hold you accountable as you're making these changes. Seek progress, not perfection. Again, if you go into this with this all or nothing thinking, like, I've got to make all these changes, or I have to do everything perfectly to create this one change, you're going to feel very defeated when you don't meet that expectation. So think about it in terms of progress. Celebrate the little wins along the way. When I started changing my eating behaviors, I didn't fix everything at once, but slowly I started implementing things that became habits, and little steps along the way now have created this characteristic of, as I'm seen as somebody who is a healthy person or who is a healthy eater. But it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen with all or nothing thinking. It happened by seeking progress, not perfection. Track and think in terms of percentages. I absolutely love this one. It's easy to apply to kind of the health or fitness realm, because that's an easy thing to track. So say you want to start a workout routine, and that doesn't mean 7 days a week you need to be hitting the gym or doing these hardcore workouts, but maybe you choose 3 days a week, which is perfectly reasonable for building strength and getting results. So you just start tracking. Monday, Wednesday, Friday was your commitment to yourself, and you just start tracking. So let's say over the next 10 days, the 10 days of workouts, not 10 calendar days if you're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get what I mean, that you completed 6 of those days that you committed to out of the 10. Well, pretty easy math, that's 60%. And I don't know about you, but when I was in school, I would have not been real pleased with a 60% grade. It would have demonstrated, one, that I didn't know the material, or that I just simply didn't do the assignment as it was, presented. But either way, it's not a very good percentage. So what happens is we often think we're doing pretty well. I hear that all the time. Well, I eat pretty well, or I exercise pretty often. When people start actually tracking, they realize, I'm kind of in a 60% range. And then they wonder why they're not getting results. So what if that was 80% and it was consistently 80%? You'd probably start seeing results, and you would probably start being someone who's characterized that way. You're characterized as somebody who takes care of their body, because most of the time you're keeping that commitment to yourself. You're demonstrating that behavior that then demonstrates that characteristic. So think in terms of percentages and something you can track. One of the tools I use with my clients are daily focus cards, and I'm happy to share that with you if you want more information. It's just a way to be intentional about your behaviors. So you are not defined by the behaviors you do once in a while. You're defined by the behaviors you consistently do. So this kind of goes back to that all or nothing thinking. If you feel like you blew it, so you just throw in the towel, and you do that every single time you try something new, then you're going to be characterized as a quitter. But if you do that once in a while, but then you consistently keep doing the things you want to do to create that characteristic in you that you want to create, then you're going to be defined as that person. So again, you are not defined by the behaviors you do once in a while. You're defined by the behaviors you do consistently. Consistently making progress is what's going to help you develop the habits that you need to be characterized as the person you want to be characterized. So, what are we going to do about it? That's a great question. Coaching works, and I'm here for you. So let's have a conversation. Absolutely no strings attached, but I would love to have a 15-minute conversation with you about what your goals are, how you want to be characterized, and how you can get there. And maybe you need some help doing that. So the QR code will link you to a calendar link to schedule that call. I'll leave this up for just a second so you have time to do that. Okay, I'm going to stop my share so you can check out the comments. So I told you at the beginning that there was a little worksheet packet that accompanies this workshop. You can get that by emailing me at nancykbullard@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send that to you. Also, in the comments, you'll see my calendar link if you want to schedule a 15-minute consultation. And also, I would encourage you to join the Ditch the Diet page. The link is in the comments as well. It's a free resource for you where we share recipes, tips, ideas, workouts, all things health and fitness. And I would love for you to be a part of that group. So thank you for joining this workshop. I hope you found it helpful, and be sure to shoot me an email or comment where this is posted, and I will get you your handout that accompanies this material. It's a great hands-on way for you to explore those characteristics and then brainstorm some action steps to do that. Have a great day, and thanks for being a part of this.